Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I am here to share 5 inexpensive card making must-haves. These are all going to be super basic supplies, nothing fancy, and they should all be things that you're reaching for practically every time you craft, or many times that you craft. And my sort of inexpensive range is the range of products that I'm going to share is from about $5 to $27. So nothing too expensive, but again, those things you're going to use many times over and over again. And sometimes it's going to be more that they're the inexpensive of the options, and I want to share that with you. So first up, I want to talk about Bearly Art's Precision Craft Glue. This small bottle, the mini here, might seem a little expensive at first. It's 2 ounces of glue for $10. However, it has a refill. And they're not available at the moment. There's some shortages. This is being recorded in October of 2021. But when it is available, it is a really good price because while you could get 2 ounces for $10 plus all the little tips that go on it, the refill is 11 ounces for $15. And a lot of the other craft glues that I have tried have not only been not as good, but aren't refillable or are more expensive per ounce. And so I was quite happy with this purchase. And again, I did try several before I landed on this one, and I've been using this one for over a year. It sticks really well, very minimal warping. It can be shipped all year long, and some of the art glues, that's not true. They have freezing and thawing problems, which is reasonable, and that doesn't mean those are bad products, but just that something to keep in mind about them. So, and they do have, this is the original, this is the mini. They also have an original size, which is 4 ounces, which would be double this amount, but I really like this small size for my craft room. And just another little thing I want to share about Bearly Arts, because I do, in general, really like this company. They have some free SVG files for you to download, and you can make different crafts with them. So they are very involved in the crafting community. They have a Kindness Cubs initiative. They are, I don't know, I feel like they've been a pretty positive force in the industry besides making this high quality product that I've been very happy with. So super good glue for just any of your like little small things you need to glue on. You can glue larger pieces of paper. I've never had any warping problems, but I don't glue super big pieces of paper. And the refillable is just really important to me because that's a more eco-friendly option. So you don't keep buying little bottles over and over again. And more economical. Then I just want to briefly show you, I do have a glue stand. This is from Make It by Marco. She sent it to me, but I've used it because it works, and I've been happy with it. It sits on my desk. It's a glue lounger. So kind of like a beach lounger, but for your glue. And it means that the glue stays here in the tip, and that way when I go to use it, I never have to like shake the bottle and get the glue down or anything like that. I wouldn't say it's a must-have, but it is a really nice thing, and it is a small business. So if you've seen this glue lounger in my videos and are curious, just wanted to give a minute to explain what that was, and that after having it for several months, I would purchase it for sure because I've been that happy with it. Okay, next up, the EK Success scissors. I had originally had a non-stick pair for many years, and then they got damaged when they were used by a non-crafter in the wrong way. And as many of you know, don't let a non-crafter use your craft scissors. But anyway, I was happy with them for a very long time. So when it came time to get a new pair, I replaced them with another pair of EK Success scissors. They do cut really small, fine areas. The holes are a little bit small, so I know that's not for everyone. But again, just the sharpness and the long-lasting nature of these incentivized me to buy another pair. And their cost is pretty inexpensive. They retail around $10. The non-stick are also around $10. So if you prefer the non-stick, which should have like a Teflon type coating, so that if you like to cut through things that have adhesive on the back, that is probably the way that you want to go. I'm going to just say right now, because I will talk about something else that could be a more dangerous tool, please follow all manufacturers' guidelines. I'm not like associated with any of these companies. I'm not telling you how to specifically use them safety-wise. Please read all those sort of things. And I'm not an expert. I'm just a crafter sharing what years of experience has taught me. Okay, next up, another sharp tool is my paper trimmer. This is the most expensive item on my inexpensive items list, but I wanted to put it on this list because compared to the cost of other guillotine trimmers and or the cost of the trimmers that have the blades that you need to constantly replace, I have found this to be a workhorse for the price. It retails around $27, and I was able to get one through like the Amazon warehouse program that was even a little bit cheaper because it was technically like someone used it, like bought it and returned it, so it's used. So that can be a great option to save even a couple more bucks. This paper trimmer is 12 inches long, so we'll cut a 12 by 12 piece of paper. It measures to 11.5 inches, not the full 12, which I know is important to some people, so this may not be the trimmer for you. It does have a large footprint. It is, more than 12 inches on each side. It has the long handle. It does have the safety feature that you can lock the blade, so once you push the blade all the way down, there's a little like lever underneath here. It's going to be incredibly difficult to show you on camera, but I'm just going to let you hear it click, and that locks the blade so then it won't move. It's a nice safety feature. I'm pretty sure all guillotine trimmers have that because you would need to. But talking about how I have found it useful, it has 1/8 of an inch measurements. Doesn't go any smaller than that. I know there are some out there that do go smaller or maybe a little bit more precise. It has this tool, this measuring tape in the middle as well. So if I have a long piece of paper and I want to make sure that it's consistently 1 inch, I can line it up in more than one place, which is pretty nice. And it has these grid lines here that are each 1/2 inch big. So it doesn't give you every 1/8 of an inch with the grid lines, the ruler does. But that's usually still enough to help me kind of make sure eyeball-wise that I am getting a consistent measurement across. The biggest downside that I would say to this trimmer, and I always say this to people who ask me, would I recommend this trimmer? Because I would. I've been very happy with it. If you've seen my videos, you see I use it in every video, basically. And it's the only paper trimmer I own. But the drawback is, if I have a 1 inch piece of paper, I cannot cut 1/2 inch off of a 1 inch because this paper guard here, which keeps your fingers from getting closer as you're kind of moving your paper over. It means that you can't cut a teeny tiny strip because you wouldn't be able to hold it down and then push the blade down. So if I ever have a small strip of paper, like 1 inch or less, and I need to cut something off it, I will usually then have to resort to my scissors. However, the other ones that I have seen that do that are a little dubious in their ability to do that anyway, because again, you do have to hold the paper down close to it. I have seen some that have like a mechanism that holds the paper down, but those are usually the ones from what I've seen, and I'm not an expert and I don't know every paper trimmer because I bought this one and I was happy with it, so I haven't done a ton of research. But they have the blades, and the blades need to be replaced a lot. I make a ton of cards, and the replacement blades would add up so fast compared to this for me. So I'm willing to deal with that minor inconvenience for my style of crafting, and I don't very often need to make those tiny little cuts anyway. So if you have any additional questions about any of the supplies that I'm sharing, please leave them in the description below, or sorry, the comments below, so that I can try to answer them. Next up, I want to talk about the cardstock that I like to use because I have found this to be the consistent quality and consistently good deal. This is the Accent Opaque 120 pound bright white cardstock. It is available on Amazon. I don't know if it's available anywhere else. That's where I started getting mine because they can ship it right to my door, and that's very convenient. Also, more cost effective than my previous option. This is what I use for my card bases, and pretty much only my card bases. I don't do a lot of ink blending or other fancy techniques, so I can't speak to how this paper ink blends very well. However, I think most crafters, unless they only make a handful of cards a year, could use a good quality cardstock for card bases, and so this is the one I would recommend. This is 250 sheets for $14. What I had previously used, and was generally one of the best deals I could find, was the Michaels Recollections 110-pound cardstock for card bases. And right now, though, that's listed at 100 sheets for $14. This is 250 for $14. Easy math there. More than double the sheets for the same money. Previously, Michael's pricing was a little bit different, but this is, again, October 2021. Those are the prices I'm seeing. That's what I've been seeing for a while, that this is consistently a great deal. I make my card bases with it. I have a video that I will link in the video description telling you how I make my card bases, but it's not hard. Basically, I just cut this in half, and then I score it in half again, which I use a scoring board, but you can just fold it in half if you don't have a scoring tool. And I would say a scoring board and a Teflon bone folder or bone folder of any sort, because a lot of scoreboards come with them. Those are pretty inexpensive crafting essentials too, because you'll use them a lot. But the Teflon bone folder can be a bit on the pricier side. However, I know that even people who don't do a ton of crafting would probably still like to know a good quality card-based cardstock. So that would be my recommendation. It's also a brighter white than the Michaels, so I found that to be helpful. With my Copic coloring, which I do a lot on my channel as well, I use Nina 80-pound. I do not use that for Copic coloring. I would not recommend it for Copic coloring. It absorbs a lot more ink and is a lot harder to blend on that paper. I realize that the Nina is very expensive. I find it to be worth it, and I try to save money in other ways, like on glue refills and card-based cardstock, so that I can afford some of those more luxury items like Copics and Nina paper. And I know a lot of people say, this is a little bit of a side tangent here, but that Copic markers are very expensive, and they are, no doubt. However, they are refillable, and a lot of other markers are not. So you may spend less money on your initial set, but if you color a lot and you're going to need refills over time, a lot of times you're forced to buy a whole new set of those cheaper markers. And that might still be cheaper, and that's totally fine. But that's just something to consider. Whereas, like, I can buy a refill and refill my Copic marker many, many times. And the refill price is similar to the price of the marker to begin with, but that, the amount of ink gets cheaper over time. So just a little thought, but yeah, definitely a big investment, and it's 100% a personal choice about what makes sense for you in terms of markers and how much you color. Okay, last inexpensive card making must-have that I want to share with you. This, I think, is less of a problem than it used to be, like when I first started crafting, but stamp blocks. When I first started crafting, it was very popular to find these like $1 stamp blocks in the like craft bargain bin, and they were like squares. They were flat on all sides, and they were really thin. I do not recommend those. If you're still working with those, I think this upgrade for a couple bucks is definitely worth it. Those really thin flat ones, they used to fall out of my hands a lot more, because these ones have like a little bit of texture on the sides, and also these bumps that you can then, like less likely to slip out of your hands. And these ones have the grid lines, which a lot of the cheaper ones did not. And the grid lines help you to line things up more. So I think rather than going for the $1 stamp block, if you're going to stamp more than like 10 cards, I don't know, I would probably upgrade to a little bit nicer of a stamp block, because I think you'll have better results and you'll enjoy stamping and keep stamping for longer. But this one's from scrapbook.com. It's just under $5 currently. There's going to be different prices for different size ones. The bigger the block, the more expensive. But these ones are similar to the Lawn Fawn ones. Sunny Studio makes some that look round, but they have like a bump in the side. So they still have that bit of grip. Any of the bigger, like the companies who make stamps, you're going to see there's offering a variety of high quality stamp blocks, but I would go ahead and look for a stamp block that's a couple bucks and not those real cheapo ones, because they're just not worth it. Even though this only has the 2 lines across the center, I find that to generally be enough to line up a sentiment. You will see in my videos, I am often using my MISTI tool because I can stamp multiple times and it is very convenient, but it is also a big investment, and I could understand that you'd want to make sure that you really enjoyed this hobby before going for a stamp platform of any type, because they're all on the pricier side compared to an acrylic block. But yeah, I think this is an inexpensive but important upgrade for anyone who's going to do any amount of stamping. Just get the block with just a little bit of grip and those grid lines, and from whichever company that you like best. Okay, so that is it for all of my suggestions today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment, or share this video. If you'd like to see more videos about how to use your supplies, such as One Sheet Wonder tutorials, please subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. I will link all the products I can in the video description and link you to my blog, where you can download all kinds of templates for using up your pattern paper. Or come find me for more inspiration on Instagram, or check out these 2 videos here at the end. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day. Bye.